page 219. So feel free to open up your Tanyas to chapter 19, or if you have the practical Tanya, it is page 219 in the book. And we're discussing today a defining property of dormant love, which is called chachma. It's a Hebrew word that's a little, with a lot of chuz in it. Can you say chachma? And it means wisdom, right? So what is wisdom? Wisdom is something that we discussed last time that we are open to. And there was a beautiful example somebody gave during the JLI class yesterday. So Rabbi Beryl, my husband, he taught a class about, it's called My God. It's a brand new 6-week course, a beautiful exploration of like, what does God mean? Like, what gender is God? Where does God come from? Who is he? She, they. And there was this beautiful line that someone said in the class, credit to David Gold, if you're listening. He said, sometimes we feel like there's darkness, but if we remember, the darkness is like a small room, and all we need to do is open the door, and there's so much light, and we just have to remember that. We just have to open the door a little bit, and all the light comes flooding in. And that's just a beautiful way to think about Hashem. Like, Hashem's world is full of light. It's full of goodness and godliness and joy and hope. And sometimes we get stuck in that little dark room of suffering or pain, and it can be really, really hard. And I'm not negating the traumas that, people experience. We have to just remember that we have the key, and we can open that door whenever we feel and access our inner core, our inner godly power. So with that, let's begin chapter 19. It's called The Defining Property of Dormant Love. What does it say? L'chaim. Let's have another sip. Cheers. So in chapter 18, we were introduced to the idea of dormant love, right? This inner soul power that's present in our souls as an inheritance from the patriarchs. Inheritance, there's nothing we have to do to gain it. There's no self-work that has to be done, no books or podcasts or things we have to read or work through. It's literally an inheritance from birth that we have an inner love, and that extends to love of ourselves, love of a fellow, love of Hashem, love of Torah. It's innate. It's like a baby loves their mother, it's innate. And the Tanya poses 4 questions about this love, bottom of page 219, seeking an explanation for A, the root of this love, B, its defining property, C, why is it our inheritance, and D, why it includes also an inherited capacity for reverence. So, as we discussed, love and fear are the basic emotions, right? Every emotion stems from either love or fear. So just before we start, any questions? Anything you want to get to, or we're good? Amazing. So let's begin chapter 19. We already answered that love is rooted in the soul's chachma because we inherit it from our forefathers, right? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they loved God so much, and we kind of got it as an inheritance, as our birthright, because they had it, so we get it too. And now we're going to say, what is the defining property of dormant love? So each one of us has a secret soul power, and now we're going to discover, what is it? What is this secret? My little, my 4-year-olds and my 3-year-old boys, they'll always run around going super ninja power, super this power, super speed power, super that power. And I'm always laughing. It's so cute, but we really do have superpowers. What is our superpower? Perek Yotes, chapter 19, page 220. Uletesefes be'or, to elucidate further the idea of dormant love, present in our souls. Tzarech lebar hetiv mashakasav ner Hashem nishmas tamid. We first need to clarify the verse, Adam's soul is God's candle. So we said that the soul is like a candle, right? I always have candles lit, and the candle reminds us of what our soul is like. It gives us a little flavor of this beautiful, shining, forever alive and lit glow that we have within. I'm going to read a little in the Hebrew. Cool? Perush Sheyisrael Hakruyim Adam Nishmasam Hilim Shol Ka'or Haner. This means that the souls of Israel, which are referred to as Adam, right? Adam means man, like person, are comparable to the flame of a candle. Shemisna'anea Tamid Lamayla B'Tivai, which by nature continually flickers upwards. So, have you ever seen how a beautiful candle, should I get the candle? It has the wax, ooh, it's hot. It has the wick, and it has the flame. So the wax is what the oil, if you put like olive oil in a candle, is what gives the flame sustenance, right? Because the wick is only going to burn. If it runs out of oil, there's no more candle. And also, if there's no wick, there's no more candle. So where does this fire come from, right? Like we light a match, and the fire is just like leaps onto that flame. Like, where does it come from? So it explains in the Tanya that, I don't know why my connection here is like, okay. It explains in the Tanya that the wick is like the body, and the body is here and it keeps the flame alive. It keeps the soul tethered to the body, because the flame, if it's just going to go by itself, it's literally going to keep jumping upward, almost like wants to like expire, like where is it going? And it says here that it's trying to get back to its source under the moon, below the moon's orbit, so it's always jumping off. What keeps it here? What keeps our body and our soul tethered together? And a beautiful explanation is that the oil it's represented by the good deeds that we do and the Torah that we study and the connections that we form and that sense of human empathy that brings us together. And every mitzvah that we do, like, keeps our soul burning brightly. And the more beautiful oil that we add into our lives, whether we want to light a Shabbat candle and we add that like flame of Shabbat peace, or we say, maybe I'm going to add some moments of prayer into my day or a penny to the charity box. And these actions of good deeds that or I'm going to just call someone who, needs a lift, or just to reach out and be there for another and kind of fuel those connections that we form with other people, that keeps that flame burning brightly. Yes.
Fragrance just.
Oh yes, it's a pretty.
It is. It's strong.
The sea salt and what is it? Salted, yeah. So, just like that wax is getting down to the bottom. We always need to remember to replenish ourselves. What do I need? How can I take care of my soul? How can I take care of my body? How can I take care of my mind? And what we do, there's obviously self-care, which is I take care of myself physically. We're going to do some yoga. We're going to do some movement to fuel our physical selves. And then there's also fueling our mind, studying, reading positive books, taking in positivity and all that. And the soul is our connections to others and our connection to God and the Torah mitzvahs that we do. So we'll read a little bit more in the Hebrew to get the source. In the middle of page 220. So the Tanya is going to explain why the flame is flickering. Mipnei she'or ha'esh, because a fire's flame, chafetz b'teva lipared meha besila, is naturally inclined to detach itself from the wick. V'lidabek b'shar shelamayla, so as to connect with its root above. Beside ha'esh ha'klali, and the core element of fire, shetachas galgal hayareach, which is below the moon's orbit. So in the classical model, you have the universe divided into two parts, right? The terrestrial region, which includes the earth and everything surrounding it, up to the moon's orbit, and the celestial region, which accounts for everything beyond the moon's orbit. And we always talk about this in the Tanya. We have the four elements. Everything in our realm is composed of earth, fire, air, and water. And if anyone's into the zodiac, which element you're represented by. My month is represented by the air element. What's your
Fire.
So you know which element represents your temperament or your type, and the Alter Rebbe explains like what those mean and what you're drawn to and what you should like, what your strengths are. And the rest is a state of all terrestrial matter, earth, air, and water. They seek their natural place at the rest in the center of the earth, unless you're stopped by the ground. But the natural resting place of fire is different, right? Earth, air, and water, they kind of stay settled on earth. But fire is like, it's above us in the higher part, and it's like always leaping. And like, if you know any fire people, they always need a project. They always need to throw wood on like logs on the fire, because it's just like so much energy, it's like consuming. And it's so funny because like, fire people, and they always have something they're looking to do or work on, or a creative project or something that they're passionate about. And like those people really need to nourish themselves with constant fuel, especially fire people, because they have to consume like good stuff because their energy is very vivid and leaping up. And that's where the natural element of fire is, beneath the moon's orbit, which is where the fire is actually trying to get to, if you're wondering why the flame is going so fast. And that's the explanation of why a flame tends to flicker. Have you ever seen a nice Jewish person davening? They like shuckle, and they're like praying, and like they have this book, and they're like, Moda ani lefanah, right? Like they're shuckling it. Why? Where does this movement, like why is there so much shuckling? Why is there so much energy moving around? And it's like the flame is trying to detach itself from the wick, because by nature it's drawn to its elemental root above the earth. As is stated in the Zohar, why is that person shuckling when they pray? It's kind of because their soul is alive in that moment. And it's yearning, every like connection, every relationship is like all about that yearning, that movement, that like desire for connection, that desire for, we all want genuine connections, we all want genuine conversations, we all want to like bond with each other and connect, and that's like the most beautiful part of being alive, right? So the soul is also so constantly moving and shuckling and shaking and trying to like get somewhere, and that's why it's so paramount to feed ourselves with positive sources of fuel and give our soul that food of like good deeds and Torah study, and it's like that yearning is like satisfied and fulfilled. And we're going to get to the practical lesson of today's study. So it says that the classical model was embraced by the sages and was employed by the Jewish medieval philosophers, and the Tanya notes that this model was also used by Lurianic Kabbalah. And even though by leaving its wick and uniting with its source, what's going to happen if the flame gets its goal? Like, it'll be extinguished. If it actually jumps off the wick, there will be no more flame. And it would cease to shine at all down here. So it doesn't make any sense. There's no other natural thing in our world that's kind of like suicidal. Like, animals don't want to die. They want to survive. They will constantly pursue survival, even in the most horrible conditions, in conditions that are like really deplorable. Like, animals want to live. You see these rescue dogs, and like they go through sometimes really horrible, terrible, unspeakable things, but they desire life, and they'll try to find nourishment and food and sustenance and shelter. It's like we have this innate desire to live. Anyone who's gone through something terrible can attest to the fact that while it's really hard sometimes, we're blessed with an ability to want life. But fire, it's constantly jumping off the wick. Why does it want to be extinguished? Doesn't it want to stay in the nice, cozy candle? Like, why does it want to go? And even above, once it's reabsorbed in its source, in the core element of fire, the identity of the flame site would dissolve in its source. It's like, it's not going somewhere to become a superstar and become like a fire celebrity up in space. It's actually just going to be absorbed right into the source of fire and kind of disappear. Nevertheless, this is what the flame is naturally inclined to do. And the Alter Rebbe is teaching us that it's almost like the reason why God created fire, the reason why we see flames and like have fire in this world as a gift. Yes, it gives us light and warmth and sustenance and life, and we wouldn't be here without fire, right? It gives us like survival. The reason why we have flames in this world is because Hashem gave us a way to understand our souls. He's giving us a metaphor. Guys, I know it sounds crazy, but there's a part of you that just wants godliness. It just wants more. It just wants to leap out of itself and become part of something greater. Selflessly, not selfishly, just because it's such an incredible feeling for the soul. The soul just wants godliness. And the flame's tendency to reunite with its source, even though in this world the result would be the flame being extinguished, and the identity would be erased, reabsorbed in its source. In the same way, but right next to the practical lesson on page 221, Kach nishmas adam, in the same way a person's higher soul power of neshama, v'kein b'chinas ruach v'nefesh, as well as even the lower soul powers of ruach v'nefesh, chavtza v'chashka b'tiva lipared v'letzeis min haguf, naturally yearn and desire to be separated from the body and to leave it. Ulidavek v'sharsha u'makara b'Hashem chaya chayim baruch hu, and so as to attach themselves with the soul's root and source in God, the giver of life, may he be blessed. And intuiting its source in God to be a superior level of existence and bodily incarnation, the soul naturally desires it. So what does it mean? Want to read the practical lesson? On page 221 in the sidebar.
Do you want me to read?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, on this side.
If you'd like.
Your soul is naturally drawn to God like a flickering flame that yearns to depart from its wick.
Yes. Our soul is like a flame drawn to God, and it just has this yearning and love. And that's its natural will and desire. And it's not logical, and it's not reasonable, and it transcends logic. But there's a deep part of us that really wants more than just humdrum every day. And with that, I'll leave us all with a little meditation for today, that there's always something that we can do to awaken our soul. And it's like the ultimate form of self-care is caring for our soul. Because yes, caring for our body and our mind and our physical being is of paramount importance. In addition, caring for our soul gives us fulfillment in a way that like nothing else can, because it's such an intrinsic part of ourselves, but it's spiritual and we don't always feel it. Like, who cares if I skip something spiritual? Like, if I skip eating, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to get depleted. If I skip sleeping, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be a wreck. I won't be able to function. But if I skip my soul fuel, it's like spiritual. We don't really feel maybe it'll get to us eventually, but it's a little harder to connect to in a natural, we're physical people, we're real people. So when we read the Tanya and when we meditate on this wisdom that it's a real part of ourselves, it's a flame. And just like a flame needs fuel to be a strong, vibrant, shining fire, our soul also needs fuel to be its optimum, brightest, and most alive self. So do something today to fuel your soul, which we all just did by studying a little Tanya together. So thank you so much for tuning in to Kabbalah with a sip of espresso. L'chaim. Cheers to everybody. And have a wonderful, amazing, blessed day. Talk to you soon.